What is up, everybody? Welcome into Shout, a Buffalo football podcast, the post-game edition, a little bit different than usual, Ryan Talbot. We're both in our suits, but we're not at Highmark Stadium because I went and forgot the microphone today, and we were trying to come up with a way to shoot the show at the stadium, but we just decided, hey, listen, Ravens-Chiefs is happening right now, which ended up being a blowout. We'll get into that a little bit later in the show, too. And we'll give it some time to breathe. We'll come back with our thoughts. Wrote a story. It's up at Syracuse.com right now. You can read that. But a lot to get into from the Bills' 31-19 win over the New Orleans Saints, which at times today was a little bit closer than I think anybody was hoping to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Bills needed a big turnover before halftime to prevent the Saints from leading. Close game all the way into the fourth quarter, which few predicted. So Saints put up a good fight. The Bills found a way to win, though.
So we're going to get into some of our big takeaways from this game, and then we're going to kind of start to look ahead a little bit early because I got some thoughts on Ravens Chiefs, and I also want to talk about the New England Patriots, who had a really good game today, and they're next up for the Buffalo Bills. A lot to get into there. But you mentioned the turnover late in the second quarter, and I wrote about that up at the site, and the Bills' safety play over the course of the first 4 weeks, I think if we're taking the temperature of the fan base, that to me has been the cause of the most anxiety when it comes to what this defense is going to be over the course of the season. And I thought at times today, it continues to be pretty poor. And honestly, I'm looking more at Taylor Rapp at this point than I am at Cole Bishop. There were a couple plays in this game where I felt like he was out of position. I thought that the one play where, Taron Johnson missed a tackle and then Rapp just took a horrible angle, which I feel like we continue to say that on Kendre Miller, the running back for New Orleans, and Trey White's the last line in defense. And we know that hasn't been his strong suit early in the season. And then he goes for a touchdown, and it's something that's been an issue. And I felt like waiting for somebody to make a play on this defense. It ends up being Cole Bishop. And that's a huge turning point in this game. 14-10, late in the half with the Saints set to get the ball in the second half. He goes up and makes an absolutely stunning athletic play, interception. And not only the interception, he bounces back up and runs for 13 yards to get outside of their own, deep in their own end. Obviously, there's the penalty on the play and they get backed up a little bit. But a huge play for Cole Bishop. You forget sometimes that this is only a 22-year-old player that's still kind of figuring things out. Today was just his 8th NFL start.
Yeah, you saw the instincts, you saw the athleticism going up and getting the ball, not biting on the trick play, which would have been easy to do based on all the movement, based on the success they had running the ball. Stayed where you're supposed to and made a great play on the Chris Olave pass. So that was certainly encouraging to see. You're right. He was the better safety of the two today, and it wasn't particularly close. The Bills have quite a few issues, though, at all three levels of this defense, it seems.
Yeah, and on the cornerback spot, if we want to just stay with the secondary, Tre'davious White, he plays the first two series, and the Bills go with Dorian Strong for the third series, and then in the second half, they gave him another series, Dorian Strong, and the reason for that, Sean McDermott said, was just to give a look to a young player. That's also what he explained to be the reason why Brandon Codrington was down and Curtis Samuel was up, getting a couple opportunities today, although he didn't get punt return looks. I don't believe that was mostly Khalil Shakir. What were your thoughts on Tre'davious White's game, and should we have seen maybe a little bit more Dorian Strong?
So White, to his credit, made one or two plays in this game. He had the big fourth down stop where Alvin Kamara kind of slips and falls, but that was still a big play in the game. But early on, the coverage skills were lacking. I know he had two defensive holding penalties. The second was definitely ticky-tack, iffy, but the coverage was still very bad on the play, far away, really struggling to keep up in coverage at this point in time. So, yeah, I do think the Bills need to kind of look at Dorian Strong and figure out what they have there, because we don't know what the timeline is for Max Hairston. With the big brace. We talked about it this week. The words from Sean McDermott. The Bills need to figure something out there. Do they have an answer on this roster at cornerback number 2 as they wait for Hairston to return, if he can return? Do they have to look outside at potential free agents, the trade market? That's going to be massive for this team because, Christian Benford's not having the greatest year, but I think if you have a solid cornerback too, that also helps out Benford. So I would be trying to give more experience to Strong. And while Sean McDermott said, young player, wanted to get him some reps out there, the Bills are looking at this, a few of the decisions from a different perspective. I think they're truly looking at Strong in terms of what he can potentially bring to the table versus Trey White. I think in the case of Curtis Samuel versus Cotterington, the Bills need to figure out what their best options are on this roster, because we're only a few weeks away, Matt, from those 2 suspensions ending for Michael Hoyt and Larry Ogunjobi, and they have some roster decisions and movement to make. So I think the Bills wanted to see, would we be okay without Cotterington if he was the odd man out on this roster, since he's kind of a luxury at what he brings. Where Strong, I think there should really be a serious consideration in terms of should he start as soon as next weekend.
Samuel had 3 kick returns for 82 yards. He averaged 27.5 per return. Khalil Shakir had the 1 punt return in the game. And, he's back there in a punt catcher role for the most part. I mean, I don't think you're putting him back there and telling him to do everything he can to try to break one. I also don't love the idea because he's so important to what the offense is. I'm not literally looking to let him take extra shots. We'll see how this thing goes over the next couple of weeks as they manage all those kinds of things. But in terms of the defense, I have this ongoing conversation on X during game days with a gentleman by the name of Michael. I don't know if he wants me to say his last name, but we always DM back and forth. He a lot of games, it'll end up being where he's just sending me a string of DMs, and maybe I don't respond in the game because I'm writing, I'm doing stuff, whatever. But one of the conversations, we had today started with him saying that this run defense is worrisome. And if you look at the final stats from this game, Alvin Kamara, 15 for 70 at 4.7 per carry. Miller, the backup, 11 for 65 at 5.9 yards per carry. I do agree that the run defense in this game, especially the inability to consistently tackle, was troubling. You have a team that entered, I told you this stat when we were sitting in the press box, 15 missed tackles according to Pro Football Reference over the first 3 games. The in-game advanced stats from Pro Football Focus had the Bills with 13 at one point in the fourth quarter in just this game, which is absolutely eye-popping. Now, I think that number will be amended tomorrow when you go back and you look at the tape and all those kinds of things. But missed tackles were a big problem today. Here is my hesitancy to rushing to judgment. And I know you're going to be missing guys. I mean, the Baltimore Ravens, half their defense is injured right now, right? But no Ed Oliver, no Matt Milano, Michael Hoyt and Larry Ogunjobi, what's it going to look like when they get back? I don't think we can do the true full evaluation yet at this point, because we haven't seen what this defense is going to look like with a couple of those key pieces back in the mix. And listen, I think you want to be better against the New Orleans Saints. They have not had a lot of success on offense. They got absolutely steamrolled by the New Orleans Saints last week. You want to be better. But I thought that there were some adjustments made, but concerns remain, and I don't think we'll truly have an answer till some of these guys get back and see what it looks like when they do.
And that's just it. That's part of the equation. Hoyt, I've said this multiple times. I feel like he's going to have a massive role on this defense, Matt. And you want to see what it looks like with him. You want to see how Ogunjobi fits into the rotation at defensive tackle. When you get Matt Milano back, does that help with the tackling at the second level and the third level? On the back end, you've seen improvements in certain areas from, we mentioned Cole Bishop by name, improvements in his overall game. So there's some positives, but there's a lot to be concerned about. I would say 3 or 4 games this year, Matt, the tackling has been an issue. They struggled against Baltimore from a tackling perspective, which again, Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, they present unique problems. They tackled very well against the Jets, but then Miami, there was a lot of issues there and a ton of issues this week as well. So it's no longer getting to be a small sample size. It's getting to be a trend. So it's something that we have, Bills fans and us in the media have to monitor.
We are right now and all month long, all season long, brought to you by Tops Friendly Markets. And right now it's all about the rush to the red zone, and you can play the red zone raffle game over at Tops by shopping some of your favorite brands like Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Tostitos, and so many more. Once you do that, you enter into the contest with so many cool options to win. I mean, you can get yourself a tailgating cooler, a Oni pizza oven. There's so many different parts of this package that you can win. It's so awesome. And by the way, Ryan, we have not talked enough about it. Breakfast pizza season is here. And here, I know it's called breakfast pizza when it comes to Tops Friendly Markets, but you can eat it any time of the day game, night game, whenever it is. Get yourself a breakfast pizza. You'll be set.
Yeah, one of the best things that you can get at Tops. It never disappoints.
All right, we got a super chat here from Chris Williams. What are your thoughts on Joey Bosa? Go Bills, Bills for life. Thank you to Chris Williams, one of the moderators of the Bills Mafia Facebook page, which has been so kind to us over the years.
Yes.
Shout out to you, buddy. Thank you for the super chat. So I think it's hard because I've been a little bit underwhelmed over the last couple of weeks. And part of the problem is I think he's playing in a role that wasn't the plan for him when they signed him. To me, I thought we were going to be going into the season and looking at him from a week-to-week perspective at 40 to 50% of the snaps, really allowing to pin his ears back on third downs, on passing downs, keeping him fresh. They're asking him to set the edge, which I don't think is the strength of his game, affect the run game, which I don't think that he's really been able to do, especially in this game today. I mean, there was a couple plays, whether it be Spencer Rattler getting out in space or runs getting out on the edge where he just looked completely lost. But I don't necessarily think that's what he's here to do. I think that once Michael Hoyt gets back, it's going to allow some of these guys to play a little bit more comfortably in their roles. I think Greg Rousseau has had moments. He had moments today where he was really good, but moments also where you want him to be better. I think you want more from Joey Bosa, but I also think it's hard to say that when he's playing a role that I don't necessarily think he was brought here to play. And I'm also worried about how much he is playing.
Right. Right now, through 4 weeks, I'm probably, if I were to throw a grade on it, I'd probably give him a B. He's made some impact plays, another forced fumbles, some sacks. He's done a lot of good things, but he kind of reminds me through 4 games, and I don't know how great of a comparison this is, but to Jerry Hughes a little bit. There's always a few plays per game where he's over pursuing and putting himself in a bad situation where he gets a little bit exposed, and when the other team gets a big gain off of it. So, those are the little things. Is he in the perfect fit or the perfect role right now? I agree with you. I don't think he is. Is he being overused? 100%. We talked about how the Bills needed to be smart in moderating his reps, and that hasn't really been the case. And I kind of understand it. They've had some tight games. They've had some moments where they needed someone to provide a spark or an impact off the edge, and he is definitely the most trusted player you have in that perspective right now, and a guy to have it down in a, if you think the other team is going to be passing the ball. So I get the usage. I don't agree with the usage, but once you do get Michael Hoyt back, that is going to change the equation a little bit for the better.
The usage is what it is because you can't really get Javon Solomon on the field more. And when he is on the field, it looks like chaotic. I mean, he had a really good, early pressure on one play today. And Spencer Rattler, who, listen, his scrambling ability today was impressive. If you just take out what you know about the player, and he was like this in college, he was a little bit of a firecracker, right? There'd be plays when you get you charged up in the scrambling department, but behind that offensive line for this offense with Spencer Rattler early in his second season, you don't expect him to be able to make the kind of plays that he made in this game in the run game. And I just think that you're looking for a guy in Javon Solomon to maybe spark things a little bit and see if you can't get a little bit more. And I also think it says a lot about the fact that he's been so much not a part of the defensive line rotation. And it probably says a lot about where Landon Jackson is, that he can't overlap him and get him on the field. Because I get it. Javon Solomon, you could trust him to a degree on special teams, but you could probably find somebody else to play that role if you can get Landon Jackson into the rotation on the defensive line. I know Sean McDermott said last week that he was close. AJ Epinesa with the injury this week, you wonder if it might have been the opportunity for Jackson. But as you go another week, you have to wonder, are they getting to the point where it's like you're getting so little from Solomon, you might just have to flip it here and just see if the third round pick can give you a little bit more.
Well, they might have to flip it as well, just because Solomon, that is, might be the odd man out in the edge room when you do bring back Hoyt. That's a possibility. He's not bringing enough to the table right now. I know he helps on special teams, but you're not going to part ways with a third round pick from this year's draft, even if he's inactive. going forward, he's going to be a part of this roster. So Solomon needs to make the most of the limited reps that he has. Shifting gears here, Matt, real quick. There was a comment in the chat about TJ Sanders and Deanne Walker. And, Deanne Walker's been great. And that's essentially what
he was great again today.
Right. It was pretty much Walker's been great. Sanders has been a little bit of a disappointing. I'm going to push back on that a little bit. First of all, Deanne Walker, excellent. 2 tackles for loss, some great plays. But we were commenting late in the game on, I think it was AJ Epinez's sack. It was because of TJ Sanders. It was because of the pass rush that he provided from the interior. And he's had quite a few plays like that already this year where he's getting the pressure, he's getting the win, and either the ball's getting out too quickly or just because someone else is making that final play on the ball, maybe he's not getting the recognition that he deserves. That was an impact play in this game today, and it just doesn't show up in the stat sheet. So, I would say fans, go back, rewatch some of these games. He is making an impact, even if it's not necessarily showing up.
I think the problem that maybe fans are struggling with is that it's not as consistent as you want it to be. And he's not as much of a factor in the run game. Like even going back, when we couldn't tape the show, I was writing a story. And so I went back and I kind of slow watched the game a little bit, the first half at least. And there are a couple plays for Sanders where you just want him to be a little bit more reactionary against the run game. And I think that to me is going to be the next step that he takes. Now, when they drafted him, if you go back and listen to Brandon Beane's comments, it almost felt like what their real hope for him in year one, especially was going to be was as a situational pass rusher to really affect quarterbacks on gotta have it downs, right? So to judge him over the top on his ability to defend the run early on here, especially in a 3-week stretch where you don't have Ed Oliver, which by the way, without Ed Oliver, you feel it all the time. Sure. This 3-game stretch has been the best argument for how important Ed Oliver is to this defense that I think could be made. And that's on the heels of what he did in that opener against Baltimore. They really need him back. I think it's going to help a lot of things. And they need him back next week. I mean, the New England Patriots look like a legitimate team today. They're starting to figure out a way to win games, to like control games. Stephon Diggs had a little bit of a breakout performance today with a 100-yard game. I'm sure he's going to be motivated to come in here next week. So you really hope on a full week here, Ed Oliver can get back on the practice field on Wednesday and get back for Sunday.
Yeah, it's been noticeable without him the last 3 weeks. And the Bills have found ways to win. They've had some big plays. Daquan Jones has stepped up in his absence in terms of his overall play. Deanne Walker, we've mentioned a few times. But Oliver is massive to this defense, just like we learned today how important Spencer Brown is to this offensive line. Not that we didn't already know that, but man, oh man, he is a cornerstone right tackle, and that showed today too.
I think my wife thinks that she's got a future in comedy here with little. Did you guys plan to do a gender reveal with your outfit coordination? As a matter of fact, that's the second comment that we've gotten today about our outfit going
twins,
together.
One of each. Yeah, what? Twins, one of each, boy and a girl. We're very happy for them.
Wow. You played right into that, Talbot. I like it a lot.
That's right.
By the way, we were just like an old married couple this morning. I texted you, and I felt like so bad that I forgot your Starbucks order, coconut milk or heavy cream. Gave you the quick text, and you were right. You responded quickly to the Starbucks chat, so that was important.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always good to get that pregame caffeine. We need that every week.
I want to get to the Spencer Brown situation because I got a Ryan Vandenberg take that I want to throw out. But before we do, Shout is also brought to you by Amtrak, and the Empire Service offers frequent departures daily from Niagara Falls, Buffalo, all the way to New York City. Stops include Rochester, Syracuse, Utica, Schenectady, Albany, Hudson, Poughkeepsie, and so many more. No middle seats, plenty of legroom, reclining seats, free Wi-Fi, and no baggage fees. Kids ride 50% off. Riding Amtrak is an experience, a fun and relaxing way to get to your destination. All right, before we get to let's put the RVD Spencer Brown conversation on ice for a minute.
Yeah.
Let's do our Amtrak Hype Train Player of the Game Award. And I'm going to go with James Cook. And for a couple of reasons. Of course, he set a franchise record today, and we'll get to that in a second. But in the press box today, I had myself a James Cookie. And I got to tell you, Ryan, it was a interesting experience. There are caramel covered pretzels baked within the cookie. It was an experience I've never had before with a dessert. It was delicious. It had like an element of funfetti cake going on.
Yeah.
Did you eat one?
I did on the way home. You're right. The funfetti is what stuck out to me. The pretzels. I mean, this is just like a kitchen sink of cookies. A little bit of everything. And that's kind of what James Cook brings to this offense. A little bit of everything. Can catch the ball out of the backfield, runs the ball extremely well. Great choice for your Amtrak player of the game. I'm going to go with someone different, though, Matt. I'm going with Dalton Kincaid.
Ooh,
Not
spicy.
just because,
Before you get
okay.
there, last thing on Cook, and I
Sure.
want to hear about Kincaid, and I actually like the pick. You know, I'm constantly blown away about how important a piece to this team that Cook has become. You really think about this. He sets a franchise record today for 8 straight regular season games with at least 1 touchdown. He has 5 touchdowns through the first 4 games. He's on pace for, I believe, 26 on the season, which is crazy, or 22, or whatever the mark is now. He is, the Saints knew the Bills wanted to run the ball today. They were not passing at a very high clip, and it wasn't a very efficient clip either. Keon had some nice receptions early in the game, but even when you know it's coming, this Bills offense runs the ball so well. And Ray Davis isn't in the game. He's got 1 carry for the day. Ty Johnson isn't in the game. He's got 1 carry on the day. They are literally fully loading the plate of James Cook, and he is delivering consistently. Average 5.3 per carry today, 117 yards and a touchdown. It was another strong performance. Now, the one thing I want to throw out there, and I'm going to talk to Sean McDermott about this tomorrow at the press conference. Are we at all worried about the projected workload for James Cook? Through 4 games, they are heavily leaning on their running back, the guy that they just paid, and I get that. But I think they might want to start thinking about spreading the wealth around a little bit, just because you're going to have some real tread on the tires here over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, you do need to work both of your other backs a little bit. Ray Davis has kind of been used very seldomly so far this year. And I do wonder how much of that is because he lost some weight in the off season. He wanted to get a little bit more burst. He said he felt a little slower last year, but they kind of do need that battering ram type of back. And maybe they want him to bulk up just a little bit and use him a little bit more, but the usage hasn't been there. Ty Johnson we know they trust him, but he hasn't been used much either. It's something to monitor because one reason why James Cook has been so good late in games last season and throughout his career is because the usage has been spread around a little bit, and he hasn't had a massive workload. But to his credit, he's looked so close to ripping off these long touchdown runs a few times today, in fact, where one guy just got him before he was about to take off and go to the races. So far, so good for him. He has been unbelievable for this team, for this offense. I do think even some of the lulls that this team has had this week against the Saints, last week against the Dolphins, it's because they didn't either have Cook on the field or they weren't utilizing him on certain drives where that put him in some tough situations. So he has been, I would say, just as important as Josh Allen to this offense through 4 weeks. And that's saying something because we know how great Josh Allen is with his Superman moment today, as you have in that headline on that run late in the game. So kudos to James Cook. Real quick, though, shifting over to Dalton Kincaid. It wasn't just the touchdown catch where he then took the ball that he scored with and threw it in the 200 level. Unbelievable throw on the run. It was the first touchdown for Khalil Shakir where he came out. He had a block in the short passing game that sprung Shakir open. Then he ran downfield, and he was the one that sealed the sideline off for Shakir before he got into the end zone. This has been night and day for Dalton Kincaid as a blocker. And that's massive. That's probably one thing nationally people aren't noticing enough and talking about. It was his biggest weakness. And we were wondering what his usage would continue to look like if he didn't improve as a blocker. And he's answered every question. There's been 2 or 3 big blocks every game from week 1 through week 4 where Kincaid has shown up on tape and it's been completely different for him.
I always think of that, trying to get the video to come in at the same time.
Right.
I think I got the wrong thing even Oh, no, I'm messing with it. Ryan's
Oh
gone.
boy.
Oh.
Here I am. I'm back.
All right. So before we get, I got some thoughts on Dalton Kincaid, but I saw Derek Babcock in the comments. One of our OG regulars on the podcast,
Yes.
supporting us over the years. And we had an event yesterday. If you didn't catch the live show, you could go back and watch it now at Wingnuts, 1402 Millersport Highway. Mitch Morris came out. It was an absolutely awesome time. And our buddy Pat Moran made a really cool video, has a bunch of people in there. Let me see if I can play this. If I maximize, oh yeah, I think this will play. Let's see.
One of the things that I really enjoy doing a lot when I get a chance is getting out there and supporting other podcasts, especially those that have helped support Talking Buffalo so much. So when I learned my guys, Matt Parrino and Ryan Talbot from over at Shout, we're going to be live this past Saturday at Wingnuts in Amherst and featuring former Buffalo Bills center Mitch Morse. I was like, yo, that's a no-brainer. Matt Parrino has been one of my favorites since he came back to Buffalo back in 2018. And I'll tell you what, he's been on my show more than any other mainstream media guest, and it's not close either. Ryan Talbot, really good dude, good friend, very talented. And I go back with Ryan long before either of our podcasts were ever a thing. But beyond that stuff, most importantly, they just do an awesome job. They break down the Bills so well to fans of all different kinds of levels. Doesn't matter if you're a casual or you're a diehard. And I'm a sucker for live shows. I do a lot of them myself. I know what goes into them. And Shout is always a fun watch and listen, especially when they do their stuff live at Wingnuts. The crowd, I'm sure plenty of them there to see Mitch Morse. Very lively for a chill out mid-Saturday afternoon. Good crowd, very engaged. Really, really good show. Mitch Morse, some interesting perspective. Not surprising at all. Very open about his issues in the past with depression and concussions. He's always been that way. This was no different. Had a really fun Josh Haley Steinfeld tale that he told on the show. I don't want to give it away, but lots of good stuff from Mitch. Made my Saturday enjoyable. Of course, after the show, I stayed to get some Wingnuts. I mean, this is Wingnuts. If you follow me, pretty well documented. I've considered Wingnuts a mixed bag. There's things about them I love that I've been Asian, the Cajun rolling is a tad too much. And that's coming from, and why in Buffalo. Good stuff. Mitch Morse was off fans, by the way. Really cool. Shout out Derek in the military station in North Carolina. It was great to meet him and a few others. The show was great. A very fun Saturday afternoon.
So there it is. Thank you to Pat Moran for putting that together. It was super cool. I wanted to shout out Derek because, he's been following us. He's been all over the world over the last couple of years. It was the first time he came to Buffalo. Today was his first game in Buffalo. He did the entire wing tour and highlighted it at Wingnuts. It was just a great time. And listen, like these live events, Ryan, like we put them on, we do them every month at Wingnuts. It's been such an amazing partnership. I tell people all the time, it's not really so much about the podcast itself. Like there's always like technical difficulties. It's a real challenge doing these things. To me, it's really about like the community and like this group of people. Like we see Mark out at these shows all the time. Western New York Photos, our guys over there. And, my guy, Scott Moranto, who comes out all the time. We just have so many people that have been such a big part of the Shout success. And we get to kind of come together every month and hang out. And yesterday was just so cool. And I actually ran into Mitch Morse in the tunnel right before we were about to go in the locker room. And he said, man, yesterday just blew me away about just like how many people were out there and the job that you guys do and everything like that. So it's really cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. We have so many, like you said, regulars, Michael, that's always there, Bundy, the regulars, but then also the people that come whenever they can. We appreciate all the support. I ran into Mitch as well on my way down to the post game presser with Josh Allen and Sean McDermott. He went into his offensive lineman stance to make sure I couldn't get by him. Still has a very quick first step there. Gave a big hug and thanked us again for the show. So awesome to have him on. Great guest. Thanks to his wife, Caitlin. Casey is podcast co-partner who is there as well. We had a great time, and I think they did as well.
This Saturday, we're right back at it. No weeks off. It is going to be Wingnuts Shout Live this Saturday at the airport location on Genesee. So don't go to Millersport this Saturday. Come to the airport location, 4300 Genesee Street, right by the Buffalo Airport Hotel. Connected, actually. We're going to have a blast this Saturday. All right, like back to the Bills. A couple more things quick hitters that I want to get to before we get out of here. And we got a big week coming up, right?
Yeah.
We'll likely come back with a show maybe tomorrow, but we got the big BKL makes me want to shout on Tuesday. So we'll see how that all gets played out. Dalton Kincaid in this game was interesting because I was critical of the fact that the Bills didn't get him involved in the offense until the fourth quarter. He had a target where it ended in incompletion, and then the touchdown pass was absolutely sensational. I think his blocking deserves recognition, as you mentioned, but they got to find a way, I believe, to get him more consistently involved in the offense. And I think you could do it in a way that doesn't force the action, but just get him involved a little bit more. Like, you know, that throw to Dawson Knox, I know you want to involve him in things, but like, I think it should be more of a priority to get the ball to Dalton Kincaid in a spot like that than it is for Knox. And, you know, Brady's got a lot on his plate trying to, like, you know, live this everybody eats life that he lives. But I think Kincaid has to become more of a priority based on how good he's been through the first quarter of the season.
100%. He's a former first round pick that when the team selected him, they envisioned a massive role for him in this passing attack. And that hasn't happened yet last year due to injury, obviously. First year set some rookie records and all-time Bills records from the tight end position. So you know the talent's there. It's about getting him more opportunities. You said it's the everyone eats offense. He's not necessarily going to put up gaudy stats every week, but the targets absolutely need to go up on a week-by-week basis.
So Ryan Vandermark, I tweeted during the game that, you know, he was struggling a bit early on, and he was. I mean, he gave up a couple pressures. He gave up a sack. I thought one of the pressures that he gave up led to a sack. He wasn't necessarily the one that was tabbed with it. But I thought in the second half, like, I think there's should be some credit. I got to go back and watch it again, but I felt like things really stabilized in the second half. And I think when you don't play and you get thrown out there in your first game, I thought last year he did such a good job in that one game filling in for Spencer Brown that I think it created an expectation for him to kind of come in and do the same thing. That's tough. I mean, when you lose one-on-one against Cam Jordan, a lot of guys lose to Cam Jordan in this league. He's made a career off of that. So I think, like, sure, do you want Spencer Brown back as soon as possible? Of course. But I thought Vandermark actually did a really good job settling in over the course of the game in the third and fourth quarter. I thought gave them some pretty good play at the right tackle spot.
Yeah, first half beaten badly on a few, especially when the Bills got into those situations that they got behind the sticks. Allen took a few sacks and hits, and you know, you like you said, you have to come to expect something like that when Spencer Brown's out of the game. But third quarter opening drive, the offensive line stabilized, and it looked really good the rest of the way from that line in terms of creating the running lanes for James Cook, but also keeping Josh Allen upright, letting him scan the field, move the ball. So, yeah, kudos to him. A much better second half than a first half. Finished on a strong note.
All right. I think we're going to finish on that note, actually, because it's time to go watch the Packers and the Cowboys. The Packers go up to a 7-0 lead. Real quick. You know, we got one of our YouTube insiders with the question here, so we'll hit this real quick before we go. Is the perception that Bishop is improving? The real problem might be Rapp, valued for being a thumper, but he's not thumping after the injuries. I mean, I think the perception that Bishop is improving comes from the fact that he made a big play today, and he's only in his 8th NFL start. We kind of covered this a little bit at the beginning, but I do think he's been the better of the two throughout the 4 games. And I think that's a lot to be said, because it almost felt like going into the season, it was like, can you find anybody else to play next to Taylor Rapp? You know, even DeMar Hamlin, some people were talking about early or late in training camp and then in the preseason. So I think, has Cole Bishop been great? No. Has he had some moments where he struggled? Yes. But I also think that he's been pretty competitive, and that's a play. If you go back to the AFC title game, he was this close to wrestling this an interception away from, I believe it was Hollywood Brown in that game. he makes the play today, and it was a game-shifting play. And you hope that in start number 8 of a kid's NFL career, that could be maybe a momentum pusher as you move through the middle half of the season.
Yeah, I think Bishop is absolutely improving, where maybe it's been more status quo for Rapp. So Rapp does need to start making some plays himself on the back end of that defense, because that's been such a strong part of this team over the years. And we talked about it last year. This is not Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde back there, but they still need to be able to make enough plays to help this unit out. And Rapp has not necessarily done his part through the first quarter of the season.
Kathy on Facebook with the great observation. Mitch Morse prediction almost right on the money at 31-21. Wow, that was really impressive by Mitch Morse. I thought this thing was going to be a blowout, as did you. And the Bills made it not so. So that'll do it for this show. We'll be back with plenty this week as we gear up for the first battle, the New England Patriots. Hopefully I'll have one of the reporters from New England give us an early look. We'll get through some stuff during the week, and then we'll be right back after it. Another home game, 3 games in a row in Buffalo for Ryan Talbot. I'm Matt Parrino. See you then.